No.
A reminder, friendly
No.
reminder.
No. We're live.
Thank you. I'd like to call the November 4th, 2021 work session to order. Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Judith Freeman,
Here.
Ms. Moore,
Here.
Mr. Sears,
Here.
Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes. Will you
Mr.
please,
Andrews.
oh. He said yes. Will you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? We will now have the mission statement read by Zaria Metcalf of Westbrook Village Elementary.
Mr. Clerk, is that-
The mission of Trotwood-Madison City Schools is to graduate all students prepared to excel in a global society with a commitment to lifelong learning by guaranteeing a challenging curriculum facilitated by an innovative and dedicated staff, community participation in state-of-the-art resources, and a stimulating atmosphere.
All right, Zaria, good job. Very good, wow. Thank you. It's Zaria. Very nice, thank you. I now need a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
I'll move.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
The executive section.
I'm sorry?
The executive section.
Okay, so we're going to add another executive session, and it will be to consider the appointment, dismissal, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual per BOE Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22G1. And we're going to put that, I'm going to put it right before the treasurer's comments. So we're going to go through the presentations. So then right under the 5-year forecast, we'll put that executive session,
Right before the treasurer's report.
right before the treasurer's report.
Is there no hand carried item?
There may be,
After the,
yeah. And action may be taken.
Well, can we add it after that?
I don't even know. Let's,
I say we add it, if we don't need it, we can take it off, or not vote on it. Because we're not
okay.
voting on it anyway.
We're not going to vote on it.
yeah, we're not going to
correct?
vote on it, no.
Okay.
Do we need to add it if we're not going to vote on it? We're not going to vote on it.
If it's the intention to vote on it at our business meeting, then we would need to.
Dr. Cosby, what
Yes.
is your recommendation? It is your item, correct?
yes, I would recommend that we add it on, and we can do that, right, just when we get back from,
Well, let's add it now. and
okay,
then
we'll
we-
add it now.
Mhm.
So that we will talk about it when we get back.
So where would you like to add it?
Right before the treasurer's, right after the executive session. Is that appropriate?
Right
Well, where do you want to put it on the agenda? You want to put it with your report, or?
before the treasurer.
Yeah, we can put it with my report, and so it would be item F, under the superintendent's report.
Well, it would be more like 4A or something, because it's an executive session item, so it wouldn't fall in the row
Okay?
with the lettered item. So you can call it like
4A.
4A.
Anything, is there anything else we need to add or change on that agenda?
I don't.
Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Sears,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mrs. Judith Freeman,
Yes.
and Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes, the agenda has been approved with the changes. Moving into item 2, which are our presentations, it looks like we have Cure House Organization,
Yes.
which is presented by
Oh,
Am I leaving something out?
We were going to do the.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Thank you.
resolution of respect and loving memory of Dana Lynn Robinson. Whereas Dana Robinson passed away from this life on October 29th, 2021. Whereas the death of Dana L. Robinson does not diminish the profound benediction of a life devoted to service. Whereas Dana L. Robinson was an inspiring, faithful employee of the Trotwood-Madison City School District, supporting our Trotwood-Madison High School students on their road to graduation and beyond, while battling a life-threatening disease. Whereas Dana L. Robinson touched the lives of many through her cheerful spirit, honorable heart, and perseverance. Whereas Dana L. Robinson's legacy of kindness, faith, and service will continue to inspire her loved ones and all she interacted with. Be it resolved that today, November 5th, 2021, the Trotwood-Madison Board of Education recognizes the remarkable achievements and service of Dana Lynn Robinson. Respectfully, the Trotwood-Madison City Schools Board of Education. Myra Bozeman, President. Norman Scares, Vice President. Denise Moore, Member. Vanessa Freeman, Member. Michael Andrews, Member.
And I would like to just give a little information about Dana Robinson. Dana Robinson worked here as a counselor for 8 years. Her mother, Linda Angel, is also a retired Trotwood teacher. Dana was highly respected in our community and very well loved. She will be missed by her Trotwood family. If anyone is wanting to pay their respects with the family, tonight from 6 to 8, November 4th, at Gebhardt Smith Paramore Funeral Home, they will be holding a viewing. The family will also receive friends from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Friday, and funeral services will follow at 1 p.m. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood how well loved she was. Thank you.
And this will be delivered to the services for tomorrow.
Yes,
Right.
that will be delivered. Thank you. Now we're ready for presentations.
Okay, so we'll move into presentations with Mary Ann Ricard. Is that right?
Yes.
And just a little bit before she begins, I had the pleasure of meeting Mary Ann at Care House. She was pleasant enough to provide me a tour of their facility and update me on the services they provide around our county and even more specifically to students within Trotwood-Madison. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Steers, for giving us this opportunity. I'm actually here today with Mary Ann, and my name is Libby Nicholson. I am the Director of Care House, which is a children's advocacy center in Montgomery County. Care House, established 22 years ago, provides a coordinated, multidisciplinary response to children who have been abused. The cases we see at Care House are those requiring investigations by both law enforcement and child protective services. They are complicated and complex cases involving child sexual abuse, severe neglect, and physical abuse resulting in serious physical harm to children. Nationally, it's estimated that 1 in 4 children experience some form of child abuse or neglect in their lifetime, and 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused or assaulted by their 18th birthday. At Care House, we offer a child-focused facility for children and families to come to, with a team of professionals specially trained in this field of work to help children heal through intervention, advocacy, and prevention. For the more than 1,000 children served at Care House each year, we offer a well-defined cooperative process that was developed to keep children from being re-traumatized by the very system designed to protect them. It keeps children from falling through the cracks of the service delivery system by successfully linking them to services that enable them to heal from the trauma of abuse. In the first 6 months of 2021, Care House has provided services to 28 children from Trotwood. Research has shown that child abuse affects an individual's physical and mental health. Maltreatment during infancy and early childhood can affect brain development and contribute to negative behavioral health outcomes in adolescence and adulthood. The emotional effects of child abuse can translate into lifelong consequences, including low self-esteem, depression, relationship difficulties, as well as developing a substance abuse addiction. The risk to children has been heightened during the pandemic and its aftermath. The disruption and stress caused by unemployment, school closures, and stay-at-home orders increased the risk for family violence, including child abuse. Far too many children were stuck at home with their abusers and without the safety net of schools and other mandated reporters. Sadly, parents are the perpetrators among 92% of child maltreatment victims. And professionals, most significantly education professionals, are responsible for 67% of all reports of maltreatment. This increased exposure to the trauma of child abuse and neglect during the pandemic will have long-lasting consequences. In terms of educational outcomes alone, trauma correlates with a higher likelihood of absenteeism, behavioral problems, suspensions, expulsions, and contributes to poor academic outcomes. Despite the increased need for child advocacy services, funding is being reduced. Care House is funded by a patchwork of public and private dollars. Unlike nearby states, Ohio currently provides no statewide funding for child advocacy centers. Federal support through funding by the Victims of Crime Act money has been cut over the past 3 years by 70%. This represents a loss of $160,000 in critical funding needed to keep the facility and its programs open and operating. With reductions in fundraising events and grant revenues amid COVID, Care House is working to secure funding for the services most at risk due to budget cuts. We are appealing to you this evening and will be approaching other districts for their support as well. To mitigate learning loss resulting from the trauma of child abuse, children and families need access to the critical services and programs Care House provides. We are requesting $100,000 in funding from Trotwood Schools to support our efforts. Specifically, $25,000 allocated toward lost VOCA funding that supports mental health services and screening tools that help inform decisions related to those services. Staff training and future capacity, being able to increase our staffing commensurate with the growing volume of children served. Resources for children to help, for families to help meet the immediate needs of children, particularly those utilizing kinship care for the protection of children. With the remaining $75,000, Care House proposes partnering with the Trotwood School to offer child abuse prevention programming in the community, specifically implementing Prevent 360, a comprehensive approach to child protection. A collaborative partnership between the Monique Burr Foundation and Darkness to Light, Prevent 360 offers Child Safety Matters, a curriculum for children, and Stewards of Children, training for adults. These complementing programs offer strategies for adults and children to have a common understanding for discussing, preventing, and responding to different forms of abuse and victimization. The cost to society is high if we do nothing. This approach to protecting children is ideal for schools, youth sports, and faith-based groups, to name a few. Protecting children from abuse and other types of victimization results in healthier children and safer communities. Upon receipt of this funding, Care House will work with Trotwood Schools to launch this programming. Our future depends on the healthy growth and development of our children. It is our responsibility to ensure children have the safe, stable, and nurturing environments they need to thrive. Child abuse and neglect are adverse childhood experiences that have significant long-term effects. And while the COVID-19 pandemic increased exposure to these traumas, We are fortunate to have Care House as a resource in helping children and families heal and thrive. The cycle of abuse, including the effects on the individual's physical and mental health, can only be broken through education and empowerment to prevent, recognize, and respond appropriately to all types of child abuse and exploitation. For the 28 Trotwood children seen at Care House in the first half of this year, tomorrow needs to start today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions, Board?
How does, is Care House a facility where the students, they come for services, or do they live there?
Thank you for asking that question. It is the most commonly asked question and the one I always forget to address straight up.
Right.
So we are not a residential facility. We are a facility that's child-focused where they come for the services. And on-site in our facility are the other members of the team that are mandated by law to respond to child abuse, together with our services such as mental health services and medical services. So a family comes with a child and may spend several hours during their initial visit and may come back time and time again for therapy and other services, but it is not a residential.
Okay. So how do you partner with the social workers in providing this service? And the only reason I ask is because I was a CASA volunteer and I worked with the social workers and did a lot of that, so I'm trying to understand the connection between the two.
Sure. So, first of all, thank you for your work in the CASA. We work very closely with the CASA's court-appointed special advocates. And my staff, if you consider them kind of the hub of a wheel with all the other disciplines coming
Right.
off of that hub, my staff work with the CASAs in the same capacity as the medical social workers do or the child protection workers do. We recognize your appointment by the court, and we will share information and work collaboratively with the CASA to ensure that the child's voice is being heard.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, we have another question.
It says that during the first 6 months of 2021, Care House has seen 28 children from Trotwood. Were those court-appointed recommendations? How does that work?
I'm sorry, what was the
Oh, I'm
last
sorry.
part of the question?
It's hard to talk with all this, isn't it? I noticed that you've seen 28 of our students, our children here in Trotwood.
Yes.
Are those court-appointed recommendations, or how do our kids get to your Care House?
So as educators, you know that child abuse is a mandatory report on the part of educators. If they are concerned about a child being abused or neglected, they must report it to Children's Services and the police. Those children first came to us by way of those reports. And we have a county-wide protocol that if a report is received from Children's Services or the police, my staff then coordinates that response. We work very closely with the Trotwood Police Department and others in Trotwood on those reports to ensure that safety plans are put in place and investigations are conducted. So it does not all come by way of a court order, but typically the port of entry for those children is through reports to the police and Children's Services.
Okay.
One last question, follow-up to Ms. Moore's question. So with Children's Serve, are you working to support the social workers at Children's Services? Because that's what the CASAs were doing, because social workers were so overwhelmed that they couldn't do all the report. So just a little real quick brief background. As the CASA, you train for 2 weeks and you're writing a report. You're doing the home visits and everything. So you're the eyes and ears for the judge. Your report tells him, when you walk in the house, what did you see? Did it look like? What was the child like? So I'm trying to disconnect between all the services that are provided, the coordination. Children's Services get a report. Do they contact you? And then your staff work with the social worker?
We do, and as a CASA, you probably experience some disjointedness of the system. So there's Child Protective Services working over here, there's law enforcement working over here, there's the court making decisions independently sometimes of both of those. We've got medical providers whose recommendations are falling on deaf ears because nobody's hearing them, and kids fall through the cracks of the service delivery system. The whole purpose of Care House is to coordinate that so it's not so fragmented. And that whole system that was designed to protect children really sometimes serves to re-traumatize them, right? And so a Children's Advocacy Center brings that all together under one roof so that the caseworkers from Children's Services are talking to the police detectives who are talking to the doctors who are then jointly coming up with a plan that's in the best interest of the child. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
I encourage you to all find the time, if you're interested, to make a visit to Care House, as Norman did, because I think sometimes seeing is believing. When you see all these entities under one roof working together, it's really quite amazing.
Where are you located? I didn't see it.
We're on Valley Street on the west end of the Dayton Children's Hospital campus.
Okay.
It's the first building you see as you're driving out Valley Street towards the hospital.
Okay, thank you.
During, given the fact that the schools were closed, did you see a dramatic decrease in the number of reporting?
Absolutely. What was the date? March 12th or something, when we all started realizing that things were going to be shut down. Our numbers dropped off significantly, and we never shut our doors. We felt it was very important to be available to any child who needed our services during that time, but there was definitely a reduction in numbers. And then as things started to reopen a little bit, and the other thing is that the rise in physical abuse of children was really impressive. And those children were taken to Dayton Children's Hospital for treatment, and that is another referral source for us. And so then our numbers started to creep up, and they have continued to rise as things have reopened and teachers are back in the classroom. And it's very concerning to us what has happened to those children in the period of time that they were stuck at home, quite possibly with their abuser.
I have a question. It says, upon receipt of the funding of the proposal, Dayton Children's will work with Trotwood Schools to launch the program. So what would that look like for us?
Sure. So neither of those programs that make up the 360 approach are run by us. Prevention has to happen within the communities. You've heard the saying, it's an old saying that's overused sometimes, but it takes a village. Well, you guys are the village. We'd like to be part of your village. The Child Safety Matters is actually a curriculum that can be built right into the school day. It takes about 45 minutes twice a year to deliver the curriculum. And the important thing is that who's ever delivering it, whether it's the classroom teacher or the counselor or whoever it is then embedded in the school. So if the child wants to make an outcry and get some help, the familiar person is there who knows what the terminology is that the child may be using and that kind of thing. So when we say partner, we want to ensure that you have the resources you can to launch this successfully yourself. And then we would mentor you and work with you and support whichever one of your staff was doing the facilitation itself.
Oh, thank you.
The last question, and I don't know if you would know it or not. On average, say there was no pandemic, on average, do you know how many kids you might see from Trotwood specifically?
I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers right at my fingertips. I easily double those numbers. I mean, the 28 for the first half year is not an unusual number for Trotwood. And what I'd like to point out is that compared to other municipalities in Montgomery County, the percentage of kids coming out of Trotwood is higher than we see in some other municipalities, which is kind of what interested us in having this opportunity to talk with you tonight, because we think we can make a huge difference together with you on making this a safer community for kids. And I will be very happy to get you those numbers. You know, when we first came up with that 28, I think it was in June, so our numbers have risen since then, and I'll be happy to stay in touch with any of you to give you numbers as we continue to see them.
Okay, and I only asked for curiosity's sake. The number could be 1, and it would be well worth the value, you know, to be certain that nothing like this happens to children. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate your perspective on that.
Thank you.
Any other
Thank you for having
questions?
me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One more thing, if I can add.
Yep.
If there could be and I don't know how it would work in regards to an official, formal proposal, if Care House could develop a formal financial proposal and submit it to the superintendent and treasurer.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have item 2B, IUE CWA MSSC program by Carl Kimbrough.
Good evening, board. It's good to see everybody, be home in my alma mater. I'm international president of IUECWA. It's a labor union. We represent about 750,000 members in 48 of the 50 states. The part that I lead is about 150,000 members in manufacturing. We have about 300 facilities out of those 48 states. And in Dayton alone, we have 15 facilities representing about 5,000 members. One of the problems we've had for a long time is that these facilities have jobs available and nobody to fill them. And this is prior to the pandemic. The pandemic only increased the problem. I've been mentoring in schools probably for the last 10 years, got a life coach certificate, and just have worked with a lot of different programs and talking to young men and women about, you know, staying in school, doing the right thing. One thing that was always common was a lot of children that don't feel like they're going either directly to college or college at all, then feel like there's no reason for them to stay in school. And that has bothered me because me being on the other end, knowing that there are jobs available for them, tried to figure out a way to bridge the gap. In 2017, IUECWA partnered with Northridge Schools to pilot a union-sponsored school-to-factory pipeline. The program was built around a nationally recognized MSSC model. The MSSC is a Manufacturing Skill Trades Council, and what the program did was introduce juniors and seniors to the information and skills necessary to be successful in these highly technical factories of today. One of the misconceptions about factory work is, you know, when I was young and when I started in the factory, yes, it was dirty, yes, it was a hard job, but that is not the way that these factories are today. Most of our factories are temperature controlled, they're very clean, and the work is very technical. So for some people that come into these jobs, it is also difficult because they think they're going to walk in and walk right on the line, and when they find out that they're not prepared, then they often struggle and quit the job. Another problem that we had, we tested in 2018 about 1,000 workers that were just either laid off or working off unemployment. So there's a prerequisite to get into the program where you had to have at least an 8th grade math and reading capability. And out of 1,000, we had 50. It was shocking to me. And so One of the things we also understood is that, even for adults who graduate and go into a factory, if they come home or if they go into some kind of job, some of the things that you learn in high school, you lose if you don't use them. And so this program also helps them get prepared to get into the MSSC, and then that's what keeps them successful in keeping their jobs. So the modules are taught over a semester at 2 periods a day, and it has enrichment information provided. Now, Northridge actually had a classroom that they provided for the kids, so they didn't have to leave the school. But I'll talk about what opportunities we're about to have coming up. A little bit more about the training. So the students are introduced to a bunch of different job skills. We've had 100 students graduate the program over the past 4 years, and probably another 20 that are currently active right now. Out of that 100, I would say 75 of them are in positions that started off anywhere from $16 to $18. One of the best things about having a union represented facility, almost every last one of our facilities, we make sure that there's tuition reimbursement in our contracts, so kids don't feel like they want to go directly to college, but they get in these facilities, and the way to make more money is to get a degree, and then we end up getting them back into college anyway. So it's not like you were just saying, hey, go work in a factory. A lot of them now are managers. We have one at a facility at DMAX who is a plant manager and about to be a CEO, who started off the floor and came out of Meadowville High School. So we've had engineers and all kinds of different job opportunities from being inside of our facilities. Excuse me. One of the other things is that the other 25 start off in trades. And I will tell you, across this nation, that is one of the biggest problems that we have right now, is there's lack of skilled trades. When they took it out of the schools, as you all are aware, and they took a lot of the labor programs away, now we have a bunch of facilities that have machines and nobody to work on. And we have facilities that pay anywhere from $32 to $47 to start, and we can't find people to fill these jobs. And so this program, once you get your MSSC certification, you can move into getting your journeyman card, all paid for by the facility, and be able to get skilled trades. And once you do that, we've had people move to Texas, California. I mean, you can write your ticket as to where you want to go. These seniors also earn graduation credits as they work to earn money for their families. And what's been interesting is we've had a few students whose parents have then seen what their kids are doing and working in our programs and joined too. So we have at DMAX a mother, father, and 2 children who all work there through this program, where the mother and father were unemployed at the time. So in January, there'll be a groundbreaking. This is the first public announcement we're making, and I wanted to make sure it was here. So we are building a facility in downtown Dayton that's going to provide the MSSC training for multiple schools, including Northridge. I'd like to have more discussions with this board about Trotwood having the same opportunity. That cuts the cost off for you, because we will provide the trainer and we'll provide the facilities. We buy all the equipment, we provide the computers, we provide everything. At best, maybe we may be asking for help if you are able to free up a teacher for 2 hours to help. But if not, then we will try and find the instructors as well. And so I think it's going to be a great opportunity, and I wanted to talk to you first. But we're doing the soil sampling now, and probably groundbreaking in January, depending on what kind of winter we get. And the facility should be up. As you know, the construction materials is a challenge right now, but I'm hoping to have it up by August, so that when school starts back up, we're ready to go. I thank you for your time, and if there's any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sure.
So this sounds amazing, because this board has been talking about the trades, and we have been talking about how do we get there. So what I'm hearing you say is that you have the infrastructure. You're saying that our students would go to your facility.
Yes.
They would be there a full day. Is that what I'm hearing?
2 hours.
2 hours, 2 hours. And
With 2 semesters, 2 hours for 2 semesters.
2 hours for 2 semesters.
Yes.
Okay.
We can modify that. That's just what we currently have in Northridge. So for every school, the reason why we're building our own facility is so that we can kind of modify it to help meet the needs of the school. So, you know, we understand that there will be transportation, which we hope that you would be able to cover. And then we'll work around that schedule of how you can get there, how long they can be there. So, I've talked to one other school district that's saying they might want them there for half a day in school. So we can kind of work, and I'm gonna have 2 different floors, so we can kind of work to modify it as to meet your needs, of what works for you.
How many students can you take?
I'm hoping to build a facility that's able to hold 2 classrooms at 40 students per classroom, and then 2 workstations. So there's desk classrooms, things, and then there's like the CNC machine and things like that we'll buy, where they'll work on the machines too. So the classroom lab should be able to hold 40 per class, and each classroom should hold 40 per class. Right now, the architect is saying at least I'll have 2 classrooms, but they're looking to see if I can have more, but at minimum, 2 classrooms with these 40 students. And I'm thinking now to have them spaced out because of the pandemic, who knows what next year will look like, so maybe more.
Okay. Is there a qualification to get into your school, other than just being interested in the trades?
No,
Really?
no. And we're looking for women as well. We have a whole national women in manufacturing program as well.
Wow.
Well, as somebody who makes their livelihood as a skilled tradesman to some degree, I'm ready to vote on that this evening.
Yeah, can we get a recommendation?
That's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
It
that
is.
is,
So, your class then will be built in January, will accommodate 80 students, right?
Yes.
So how many do you already have spoken for, and what's left for us? Because you mentioned Northridge and I don't know if you still
20 right now in Northridge. So I have 2 other schools to visit, but as I said, this is my home.
But if you
Okay.
didn't visit them,
Yes.
Okay,
then we could take the rest of those spots.
well, let's reverse that. Maybe you might not need to visit the others.
yeah.
Well,
Or only a few
well,
of the
understanding though, it's not like a school. Even if there's other schools.
Oh, right,
Because
they're
Probably can have like
rotating
a
in.
Wednesday, another school can have 2,
Okay.
you know.
I
So,
got it.
yeah.
Yeah, because we're ready to
We'll
take
try
all
what
the
we-
days.
We'll get the love.
Okay,
So
so
what
they're
do,
rotating in.
Yeah.
so what do we need to do? Like, what do you need us to do as a
Right
Board
now,
of
I just need to
Education?
know you're interested. It really helps me as I'm talking to the architect. Yeah, I don't need a commitment or anything. I really just wanted to introduce the idea. If you are interested, that's the only commitment, is to say, yes, we're interested. You don't have to say, yes, we're going to join or anything. I'm going to build the school regardless. But it helps me if I know how many are interested as to how many classrooms I need, how many computers I need, things like that.
You need all of them.
Yeah,
I'm interested.
yeah.
It sounds like the board is interested.
Yeah.
Administration is interested as well.
I'm happy to hear that.
I move that this board seriously consider the relationship and the partnership with this organization.
Well, if that's a motion, I second it.
It has been properly moved and seconded.
And we're all in a.
Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mrs. Judy Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Lindsey
Yes, the
Pope?
motion carries, so, yeah,
Sounds
we're
good.
interested.
Yeah.
One other
Thank
thing
you.
I'd like to mention, in the meantime, if you have seniors that are graduating and not going directly to college and are interested in working, we can work on that partnership now. I can probably get them in a few of my facilities now, and then they can learn the MSSC through the facility. So we also have a facility that train incumbent workers. We're the first one in the country to do it, partnered with Sheriff Brown 2 years ago, and we're going to restart that program next year. So if you have students right now that are graduating and don't know what they're going to do, we can have some discussion, later on this week, next week, whenever, and I can start getting them in these facilities.
Ms. Allen, can we have a formal resolution drawn up to confirm the partnership, just to make it public?
And who would he get referred to, Dr. Cosby, to kind of see what students might be interested in
Right.
this? I don't know who.
We have our lead counselor at the high school, Mrs. Lindy Connor. So you can contact me, I can get you in touch
Okay.
with our guidance counselor and principal at the high school.
Okay.
And for me, I would like for the board to get information on how many students were referred. Do you have a date that we need to look to provide you that?
I'm really looking at August of next year as far as when we could get started with that program. I'm hoping that's my target date, to have the building done by August, so that when the school year starts back up next year, I'm ready to go. As far as the job available, I honestly have about 1,500 jobs available around Dayton right now.
No, I was speaking to the graduating seniors
Oh.
that we want to identify.
We need a
You
suspense
can
date.
give me their resumes tomorrow.
We need a suspense date on that.
Yeah, so,
And if there's enough of them, I might even be able to set up. So they didn't do manufacturing day this year, but usually, most of the schools tour facilities and manufacturing on manufacturing day every year, but because of the pandemic, we didn't. But I still might be able to even set up for a tour for some of them, in some of the facilities.
You know, as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what might be more beneficial if there's a time that the high school can have you come and speak to the students.
Sure.
You know, that
Absolutely.
one-on-one interaction, and they will probably get just as excited as we are, and they might run and tell a mom or dad, we can do this.
In fact, they're having a College Credit Plus thing. When is that? I don't know if you know. It's like next week or something, isn't it, Dr. Cosby? I don't know if you know when that date is, but I know it's coming up.
Yes.
I'm sure they could probably, we need to do something perhaps like that for this, since we're doing a College Credit
No
Plus
problem.
thing.
I mean, we'll be in touch,
Okay.
and we'll set that up for you to get with our students.
Sure.
We have probably information about students who did leave and still haven't made a decision about what they were going to do, not just students who are currently seniors.
Okay.
And can we get an update, the first meeting in December,
Sure.
about the logistics, how the logistics of the partnership are working out,
Work session.
the work session?
Work session.
yeah, and,
November work session.
and also, what date is that College Plus meeting?
I don't
would
have
like
it off
to-
the top of my head, but it's coming up. It's like in the next couple of weeks or so.
Can you get it to the
Yeah,
board
we'll
so
get
that
it
we'll
for you.
know what date
Yeah, I
that's
don't know
gonna
exactly
happen?
what date.
Yes.
And then if we could, really promote this event to our students and also to our parents, to let them know that it's more than just the College Plus. It's jobs, it's opportunity,
Right.
it's a partnership.
And that also would be for the parents and the kids.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
yes,
what-
parents
Yeah.
and kids.
Yeah.
So, we'll just talk about it because I really want to get this out. I just don't want to put a little blip on the website or just something on the Facebook page. We need a blast. We need people to understand. We need the all calls going out to the appropriate people. We really need to get this out to Trotwood
Is there
families.
any financial commitment that you're asking for us? You don't want us to adopt a classroom and put Trotwood-Madison?
We're going to need a teacher for 2 hours, okay?
At some point, depending on how quickly it takes off, there may be, outside of getting the kids there and back, the transportation will fall on each school, but other than that, maybe instructors. We've also looking at maybe rehiring retired teachers, so if you guys have retired teachers, we may be looking to hire them just depending on, the Black Caucus is looking to write a bill that's going to help fund this, and then I've talked to the state, and Sheriff Brown's behind this, so hopefully a lot of this funding will be done, but whether they fund it or not, I'm building the building.
So this is like an initiative throughout the National Black Caucus as well. I'm a member of the National Black Caucus. So as a matter of fact, I will see those guys next week at a conference.
Please
So-
tell them you talked to
I
President
will,
Kennedy.
I will, yeah, I'm really excited about that, and talking about the new initiatives, and actually having an opportunity to speak with the national president of the organization is huge for us, and also a Trotwood alum. So
Yes,
thank you.
huge for me. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm looking at a suspense date, maybe
Yeah.
like the.
We need
work
follow up
session.
like this, like yeah.
Yeah, we
We'll
we
get
did
the
set
date.
one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll get the date for the event, and then, and as soon as we get that, we
Okay.
gotta be popping. Because this can't sit on the table.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. All right, even like she said, some of the students have already graduated.
I
Okay,
love it.
item 2C, Ms. Allen, the November 5-year forecast presentation.
Mhm.
I don't know if I can top that.
Janice is like, I should've went first.
Okay, that was very exciting.
I know, this is awesome.
Okay, in front of you, board and Superintendent Cosby, there are black folders, paper in it, and also I have attached on board docs if you'd like to follow the presentation and the backup documentation attached at the board docs as well. Okay, so every year I have to come in front of the board to try to adopt a 5-year forecast, one in May and the other one in November. So I'm here for the one in November. This forecast covers 2022 through FY '26. So I wanted to kind of break things down and talk about some challenges to the operating revenue. So we have House Bill 110, it's called Fair School Funding Plan. And this plan was extremely complicated. They are still trying to work out some of the bugs, even as I speak now. But this plan is just for the first 2 years, and it's a budget biennium, the FY '22 and FY '23. So the state has delayed getting all of the information to us until December. So keep in mind, when we talk about 5-year forecast, this is exactly what it is a forecast. And it's something that we put together with the data that we have. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have the data, and I try to put things together as best that I had at the time. So things might change dramatically in December, I'm not sure, but as soon as we get that information, I'll continue to keep the board updated. So one of the major things that has happened is all of the revenue that's flowing through, like community schools, STEM schools, open enrollment, is following the students now. And so they call it direct pay. They're actually directly paying districts. And they have talked about that for many, many years, and I am glad that now we don't serve as a pass-through. All of our students that we have, we will get direct funding for that. I will go over this third point, but basically on all other revenues, you might see a reduction in that line. The line 1.035 and 1.04, that's the state foundation line. You could see maybe potentially a slight increase in that. And then, of course, on the purchase services line, and we'll talk through that, you'll see a significant reduction in that line, about $6 million. Okay, so other sources of revenue, I just wanted to bring this up, several other sources. Keep in mind that this 5-year forecast only entails general fund, but I wanted to talk about other revenue because we talked about it. So one of the other revenue is the student wellness and success monies.
And so after FY '21, we had about $305,000 left in that fund from the initial $914,000. That money is going to be used primarily for Samaritan Behavioral Health that we buy our mental health therapists from. And then the second part of that for FY '22, they are going to give us an additional, I shouldn't say additional, they're going to give us $914,000 for the student wellness and success money. But the problem is, or the significance is, that money is going to be rolled into our general fund. So it's not necessarily additional money, they're just playing the shell game. So bottom line is it's not going to be Fund 467 any longer, it's going to be rolled into the general fund pocket. And we can talk about that a little bit more as we go through. The other source of revenue, of course, is our ESSER 1, 2, and 3. ESSER 2 and 3, ESSER 2 is about $7 million, and ESSER 3 was about $15 million. And we've talked about that a lot recently. And those monies, obviously, primarily is to reduce the learning loss recovery. And then we've allocated monies for staff and for purchase services and curriculum, particularly PPE and educational technology. I want to just re-emphasize, I want it on record, and I will put it in my notes, that ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, ESSER 2 stops September 30th, 2023, and ESSER 3 is finishes September 2024. So if we have not bought things, if we have not encumbered, that money goes away. So of course, the $22 million, we want to make sure we're intentional, and I know the board has talked about being intentional about utilizing that money. So I just want to make sure that we understand that money is gone after 2024. So here's some facts and assumptions for the expenditures. Our salaries and benefits on the 5-year forecast, we grew those very moderately. Again, I don't have the crystal ball, but moderately we grew those throughout the forecast from FY '22 through FY '26. We will begin our new budget process for FY '23 beginning sometime in February. So we will have a lot more data to look at when we start that budget process. Materials and supplies, also we increased that by about 2%, and that was primarily due to our curriculum purchases. The last part of our expenditure forecast was capital outlay. We increased that slightly, but I wanted to bring to the board's attention that the district is purchasing 2 buses this year using ESSER funds. And so traditionally, in our capital outlay plan, we had indicated that we would buy that out of general fund. So luckily, we have these ESSER dollars and we don't have to spend that money for buses out of general fund. And then the last piece of that is other objects. Under other objects, that's the ESC expenditures and then the auditor fee. So we increased that line about 2% and 1% respectively for those 2 categories. So what I wanted the board to see is just, I did 2 spreadsheets, and one was about revenue. So I wanted to compare what our May forecast looked like back for FY '22 and what now November looks like. And so the first line, the property taxes, just a slight increase. They're projecting a slight increase from May forecast to the November forecast. State Foundation, when I talked about the money following the student, that negative $4 million is the money following the student. So the community schools and open enrollment, that is the majority that will be reduced from May to November. Our homestead rollback is about the same. Other revenue is a negative 1.5, and other revenue includes the tuition, open enrollment facility, rental, interest in Medicaid reimbursements. Our interest, I used to stand up here and brag to you guys about how much interest we got every year. The interest is about 90% decrease because there's no interest anymore. It's almost less than 0% interest. I did the same thing with expenditures, and you can see the salary is pretty consistent from May to November, a slight increase. Retirement, the retirement line is decreased. We have not seen a lot of retirements lately on that line. We paid our retirement incentive out of that, so that's a $367,000 less. Then you see the $6.5 million that I talked about on purchase services. $5 million of that is community service. $1 million of that is open enrollment. $600,000 of that is scholarship, and $86,000 of that is STEM schools. So I wanted to bring that to attention. Everything else is pretty consistent from May, and so the total is about $6.6 million as a reduction. This is my favorite graph, and I talk about the alligator all the time. The red is the expenditures going up slightly, and then the revenue is the blue going down, and it always looks like an alligator to me. So as the red expenditures goes up and the revenues goes down, your alligator is opening its mouth bigger and bigger. However, when you see an estimated 2026, and again, we'll talk about the 5-year forecast itself, we're projecting $15.7 million as a cash balance in 2026, which I'm pleased about. This just gives a target. I think it was May, I'm sorry, not May, but in 2016, we passed a policy that we would have at least a 60-day cash balance, and this spreadsheet shows that we're keeping our commitment. So I did a little calculation very quickly. Our expenditures are $35 million. If I divide that by 12 months, it's about 2 million. And then if I multiply that by 2, it's about 5.8 million. And you can see on the chart, it's about $5.8 million in terms of our 60-day cash. So that's how we calculate our 60-day cash balance, and we're within our policy that we want to be. Okay, just a couple more graphs. This is the revenue, $35.4 million. You'll see on the forecast. And just to keep in mind that 75% of our revenue is included is state foundation. And so that, we have to really keep our eye on what the state of Ohio is doing, because the majority of our revenue is coming back from the state. The other state revenue is the homestead and rollback that I talked about, and then the other local, which was 4%, is the tuition, open enrollment, interest, rentals, and Medicaid. I did the same thing with expenditures, and you can see wages and benefits are about 81%, and that is about what we expect. And then the other services, purchase service, materials, capital, and then other, again, is the auditor fees, insurance, and ESC expenditures. And then this is just another graph that shows your wages, benefits, services, materials in the dark purple, and then at the top is capital in the green. And I just made a note that obviously, we talked about being intentional, being strategic, and of course, we want to spend our money in that strategic manner, and make sure that we're reaching all of the initiatives, academic initiatives for our kids to either be college and or career ready. And so summary is the state, again, 75% of the district's revenue, so we have to make sure that we keep an eye on that. And again, as I talked about, the state is delayed in getting our actual models to us until December. There won't be any substantial increases, obviously, in revenue. And then ESSER 2 and 3, I've been here 10 years, I've never seen the influx of cash like we've had for ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, and I predict us seeing anything even close to that in the near future. And then, as I stated before, in June 30, 2026, we are anticipating a cash balance of $15.7 million. And again, I always like to applaud the board because our district must be strategic, and must be intentional to make sure at least our next 4 years of the citizens of Trotwood will not have to support an operational levy. So the next thing I want to, any questions, but before the questions, may I bring up the 5-year forecast? The 5-year forecast, I actually printed a larger copy so you guys can see. If anybody needs a copy, I have a couple of copies on the end of it. I just wanted to go over a couple of things just to highlight, just a couple lines, and then I'm done. Okay, so, okay, here's my pointer. Okay, so Luke, can you bring that down just a little bit on 3.01? I wanted to bring your attention here. Personnel services 3.01. I wanted you to look at 2024 is 20.6 million, 2024 is 21.6, and you can see this increases by 1.8 million in 2025 and 2026, and that's what we looked at in terms of the ESSER dollars drying up, and we possibly may have to then absorb some of that salary back into the general fund. And then I wanted to bring your attention here. If you see, these are actual figures, $9.7 million that we spent purchase services, and purchase services did include our community schools, which was about $5.7 million. If you look at 2022, the significant decrease, and when I talked about that $6.6 million, that's exactly what that is. And so that's pretty consistent on that line. And so if you can go all the way down to the bottom. Okay, stop there. And then here, here's our fund balance here of $15.79 million that I talked about before. And so that's everything that I had this evening.
So, I got a question.
Is there a question?
Yeah, I got a question.
Okay.
So, cash balance as of June 30th, say,
Yes, you can bring that on here.
on the 5-year forecast.
Uh-huh.
As of June 30th, 2022, cash on hand or cash balance, $30,500,000, roughly. By 2026, that's just 4 years, cash on hand, $15,890,000. That's roughly half of what's on balance.
Yes, yes.
So 4 years after that,
Okay, so, of course, like I said, I didn't have that's why we have to be really intentional about looking at what we have there and then making sure that we look at what we're taking in and what we're spending. So a large majority of that is inclusive of our wages and benefits. And so those are the discussions that we need to have in order to keep stretching this $15 million out. And like I said, I don't know about what the state budget's going to be. You know, we might get some more federal dollars. I'm not sure. I can't speak to that. But the only thing I can speak to is a forecast through 2026.
so theoretically, right, this is just theoretical, by 2030, under the current, we would be broke,
Theoretically.
theoretically.
And so what I wanted to show you can you go to line 6.01, please? Six. So when you talk about Mr. Scares, this is that deficit spending that I'm talking about. So in FY22, we're in pretty good shape, 1.1 positive.
Right.
As we go through here, it increases substantially. So that's what brings our $30 million all the way down to the 15.
And I've said before,
Yes, you have.
you know, just because nobody really wants to talk about it, you know, at some point, we can't continue the staffing levels. We can't afford to continue the staffing levels. And that's not personal, that's just by 2030, we're going to be broke, you know? And the only way to considerably decrease the amount of expenditures that we have is
right size, basically.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I just want to make sure that I throw that out, that particularly the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 dollars will be going away, and then we just really need to focus in on this piece here.
Yeah, and you know, for me, if we go to the general fund and we look at this bar chart here, and we look at what we're spending things on, when you look at the gold bars for the amount we're spending services for students, for the ESSER dollars, I expect that to be increasing. But when I look at the bar here, we're really not moving it. So when I speak to the ESSER money and making that difference, so right now, for where we are with our, you know, our academics for our students, we should be infusing that money to each and every one of those students that are behind. And
If I can add to that,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all right.
And I've said this before as well, you know, opportunities like this where we have such a large influx of resources are once in a lifetime opportunities. And so if we don't position ourselves to capitalize and to build off the resources that we have right now, like we should be expanding everything. We should be expanding preschool, we should be expanding, Mr. Kennebrew, you know, presented to us tonight. We should be preparing for what we can't necessarily see right now, but we know is coming. So we put ourselves in a position by the time 2030 get here. First of all, the state sends us so much money because they think we're broke, right? That's, in a nutshell, that's the state foundation money. But any minute, they can decide, well, you know, Trotwood doesn't need as much money as we've been giving them, and we would need to fend for ourselves on how to recoup those resources. And so I think it kind of behooves all of us to take into consideration, all right, what can we do that will increase student enrollment, which will ultimately increase the bottom line? You know, we got necessary services that we have that we can't really, you know, bend one way or the other because everybody needs them. But one thing that we can completely control is our student population and revenue because of our student population. So when I talk about creating, the district should be creating charter schools. We should have our own charter schools. We should put charter schools in Clayton and in Inglewood and in Centerville and in Beaver Creek. We should be doing that. We should be. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to get the students here, but I got to make sure I have a rich curriculum that, you know, parallels anything else to get them where they need to be. So they didn't give us that money because they thought we were broke, and we are.
I know, I'm not talking about ESSER dollars, though. I'm
Yeah.
talking about state foundation money.
Right. They gave it to us to help us move the mark. So it's really, really hard for me to get that much money and not move the mark.
Right.
So we've got to do something different. And I don't know what that is, and you know, but we've got to educate our students. I don't know if it's more than the 6.5 hours or whatever they get now. And we got to, and I keep saying, we got to think outside the box on how we do that. You know? And I know that we are doing it, but we got to speed up the pace.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, each and every one of us, if we work in the district, if we sit on the board, we're responsible. So when our report card flashes up, we have to own that we either did something right or we missed something. This is our opportunity to do it, and to do it outside of the boxes that have not worked, to go a little further beyond.
Ms. Freeman, I agree with you. I think, as you said, our mission should be to give our students a comparable education what everyone else is offering, but I think it should be enhanced specifically as we have tried to introduce different additions to the curriculum. And I think that would be, or that could be, that could be the thing that pushes us forward and pushes us past, because it's something more and something different and something relevant
Yeah.
and important to our students.
I want to piggyback on both of you, and Mr. Scares, you're right. We have a lot of money to be creative right now. We have to market to our kids. I know this as an example. I was in Africa, and I was talking to a little fifth grader, and she came up to me because I had an opportunity to teach in a school. And she says, "I'm so sorry, I'm not like the other kids. I only know 5 languages." 5 languages. Can you imagine? And I'm thinking, oh my God, because everybody else knew 7 or 8. Why can't we have a magnet school for something unique and different and build on it? Because we are in a global society. Nobody's thinking about the little kids learning a second language right now. I mean, like really delving deep. You know, we have high school Spanish and, you know, that kind of thing. But I'm not saying there. We have an opportunity right now to catch them and grow them and set up programs to foster that particular skill set. Do you know how many people want to send their kids here if they thought, well, Miami Valley, the school in Miami Valley, a lot of those parents are paying, what, $30,000 a year for kindergartners? Okay, I'm serious, because I have...
$27,450.
Thank you, because I have a friend there. And her daughter's taking Spanish and Japanese. And I said, is that why you wanted your daughter there? I mean, kindergarten. She said, absolutely. I mean, it's those things. Yes, Mr. Andrews, I'm sorry.
I agree with you. And actually, studies have shown that introducing foreign language when kids are very young is much more effective than waiting on them to traditional middle school or high school, because their retention, their ability to retain it is much stronger at lower levels. And even if we could not do a magnet school, perhaps we should be looking at a magnet curriculum within the school.
I think I understand, and it's not lost on me, you know, my lofty ideas and concepts are probably only good for about 3 more meetings, right? So, but what I think, like, curriculum is important, but it's irrelevant if we're broke, right? So if the charter school system wasn't just created so people could challenge us in the world of education. It was created for us too. So unless we really take, you know, to heart the business of education, and I'm not just talking about educating children, I'm talking about the bottom line, the money making of education. Unless we really take that part seriously, you know, all the other stuff is going right out the window. Like, if we don't use to our advantage what other people use against us to compete, I don't understand. We can start just like Mr. Kinnebrew started a school downtown. We could do that. Like, we don't have to be locked into the 22 square miles of Trotwood City School District. You know, there's so many opportunities out there, and all right, I'm done. Thank you.
I would like to just sort of say you're preaching to the choir. We are really excited about the opportunities that this money is affording us, and we are working on so many of the things that you have spoken to. Our virtual academy is at the limit right now that we have on it, but we intend to expand it. Right now, as far as that's concerned, our biggest dilemma is finding, you know, people to work. And when I say work, to teach and to, you know, to get the positions filled. We still have positions open across the district, and I know that's due to COVID. But we are still building the groundwork for these things that we're talking about, and we do intend to expand our virtual academy. We also are looking to expand our preschool, because as you've all said, and we wholeheartedly agree, that education starts as young as we can get our students. And even though we have a lot of respect for many of the facilities that we have in our community, we do believe that our children coming to a preschool that we provide will in fact get them moving quicker and have them ready. As some of you may know, I'm not sure if you all do, I have met with Central State, the president of Central State, as well as with their mayor. We have discussed partnerships that would increase these opportunities for our students, our agribusiness. We're looking to increase that, our business programs. So we are definitely following along the same thought process as the board is, saying to us. I'm really excited about it. We are looking at getting the biggest bang for the buck with our money as we can. Today we had Dr. Cash come in to speak to our teachers. Well, he talked actually to our DLT. We had a full day of training on differentiation so that our students, regardless of where they are, in our tiered system, will be getting that type of education that we know that they need. We need our teachers to be asking true, essential questions. We need them to really be challenging our students. We actually developed a definition of differentiation that we used our mission to sort of guide how we did it, because we do want our students prepared for 21st century, life and success and careers. So I want to make sure that you understand that we are hearing you, we are supporting your ideas, and don't worry, Mr. Scarce, we will not forget all the things that you are saying. They will still be things that we will take under consideration as we move forward, and just want to assure you, all of you, that we are listening, we are working on these things that you're talking about.
Thank you. Okay, so we just finished the 5-year, anything else, board, before I move on? Anything? Okay. We just finished the 5-year forecast, and that moves us to our executive session. So I need a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, dismissal, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual per BOE policy 0166 and ORC 121.22.
So moved.
Been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Scarce?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman? Yes. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes, motion carries. We'll now go into executive session. It is 6:47. No action will be taken. Okay, thank you. Good? Okay. So we are back out of executive session, and we're moving into item 4, which is the superintendent's report. Dr. Cosby. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Janice. I thought, I was just thinking because you spent all that time. I forgot that was a 5-year forecast. Lord, okay, go ahead. Item 3. Get on back up there, treasurer's report. Okay.
For information on the approval of the minutes for October 7th, October 15th, October 16th, and October 21st. Just for information only. And then I just put the approval of November 5 forecast, and I just attached the forecast. This is information only we talked about that. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Now superintendent's report.
All right, so we have the second reading of the OTES 2.0 policy replacement, and I do have this on for action today. If possible. Better so that we can move forward with our evaluations and everything in regards to using OTES 2.0.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the OTES 2.0 policy replacement.
So moved.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions about the OTES 2.0 policy replacement? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mrs. Julie Freeman?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bolte?
Yes, the motion does carry. Item B.
Okay, for item B, I'm asking, this is for information, for approval of the Mother Bruner Professional Services Agreement. And we have several agreements that run through Mother Bruner. Is for our students who require extra support. So we have enrichment services through them, we have intervention, we have small group services provided through Catapult for Mother Bruner and for some other schools that we have students attending. This is just informational. I don't know if anyone has any questions about that, if you had a chance to look through that.
Any questions about that, the professional service agreements? We're familiar with those. Item C.
Item C is approval of the student activity purpose statement and budget for the MH functional class. The purpose of these monies is the students will be learning vocational applications in school that will help them ultimately get jobs in the vocational area. They basically do a lot of popcorn sales. Their revenue is anticipated to be $1,959.44. Their expenditures are $1,602. So again, that's for information. You would vote on that next.
Okay.
Item D is approval of a donation to Madison Park Elementary. It's $10.87. And that is a Follett book buyback. Then we have the approval of the personnel agenda. All right. We have a recommendation for the approval of the following certified resignations for the 21-22 school year as A1. A2 is recommendation for the approval of the following certified adjustments and training credit position for the 21-22 school year. A3 is recommendation for the approval of the following academic supplemental positions for the 21-22 school year. A4 is a recommendation for the approval of the following certified event staff workers for the 21-22 school year. Now we'll do certified personnel agenda B. B1 is a recommendation for the approval of the following, and I'm sorry, this is the classified resignations for the 21-22 school year. Recommendation for the approval of the following athletic, academic supplemental positions for the 21-22 school year. B3 is a recommendation for the approval of the following student workers for the 21-22 school year. And that is the information, and that's all I have tonight.
Never seen it.
Okay.
I have some questions. And maybe I missed this, because at our retreat, didn't the board say that we were gonna look at some of these supplementals? I mean, I see we have a new one on here too, that I mean, I think it's good. I just, know that it just popped up. We've never had the, Alliance.
The LGBTQ
Yeah.
plus alliance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, I'm interested in knowing what that is, and also the board was going to look at these because, like we told you last year, and we talked about this, some of these seem duplication of services.
Well,
And, we talked about that last year, and, again, I think that as a board, we are looking at how we enhance student achievement, but I want to make sure we're not duplicating services.
I had anticipated that, that conversation would take place, by the board sooner, and I would be given, direction. We have started some of these things, as you know. For example, our band director, has already been working, and, several people have already started their supplementals as school has started.
Yeah.
I just want to know, what does the LGBTQ plus Alliance do?
My understanding is that it is a support group for students who, and for anyone can join it. It's like a club. And so it offers a place for students who are either in alliance with people who are LGBTQ or who themselves are. We're finding at our school, particularly at the high school, we have more students who are identifying in those categories, and so this is an opportunity for them to have, support through a club, and so that's what that position.
Is there an alliance for heterosexual students?
People would potentially argue that
Everything is going
going
to
No.
for the majority of our students who are heterosexual, and they are in a club, and they are, have an opportunity to talk to one another about things of that nature. They're, who they like or don't like. We talked at one point, as you all know, about, working on some things that haven't went through. So that is a group that, just like you all are going to the, the Black Educators Conference, people will ask that same question. Well, do we have a specific one for, white educators? And we don't have one that's titled that, because most people would say, most of these organizations that we participate in and intend to address the needs of those people, and so we have something set out specifically addressing, Black educators, and I feel that this falls under that same type of designation.
What's the difference between a singer's advisor and a vocals advisor?
I believe it's the type of thing like, you'll have an honors choir and you'll have regular choir, so everybody isn't doing the same thing necessarily. There's some people who are more advanced than others. We do have I think that is the type of difference, is what is being taught to the different students based on their level of ability.
I just, I feel like it's Groundhog Day. I feel like I've had this conversation before. But I guess the question, what I think I heard you say was, you thought that the board would have conversations about this sooner. And we actually have. When we had our very first retreat this year, we talked about like leadership opportunities. We talked about different leadership opportunities for students. We talked about social media for students, all under an advisor, and that would be some sort of supplemental. And we've talked about it more than once, different types of supplementals that we would love to see our teachers engaged in. And we're still talking about I'm still looking at the same stuff, and I'm still hearing the same conversations that I've heard, which is why I feel like it's Groundhog's Day. So we have talked about them, so you have had some direction on that. So when you said you thought the board would talk about it before now, we have.
Yeah, we talked
Well,
about that.
It was one of my comments is to let you know, we talked about how to get student voice and what their interest is. And on November 15th, not this Friday, but next Friday, I'll be holding a meeting with 8 of our students at the high school, 2 per class, to have those types of discussions about
Right.
what their interests are. And I apologize, what I would say to you is not that I didn't think that, I know that you want some different types of opportunities, different clubs. So if that's what you're saying, then yes, we can, of course, offer more opportunities for our staff, but to be quite honest, as you can see, it's very difficult to get advisors for all that we have. We have more than one person doing more than one club because people they're just exhausted.
So let me ask a quick question. When it comes to some of these supplementals, almost like we do our coaches, are some of these, do they have to be by teachers? I know there are some where, it has to be a teacher.
Right.
But I would imagine, there are musicians and singers and artists and, whomever out in our community that could facilitate some of these. Is that a possibility?
Yes, that is a possibility that we could have people from outside who would facilitate clubs and things, but as you know, we've been really limiting the number of people that we have in our building due to COVID, so like we're not using volunteers at the level that we have before. I understand that we've also had before other supplementals by people who aren't educators in our building, so no, definitely that is something that can happen, but we're not doing opportunities for our students. We actually on Saturday will be taking students to it's called the Funk Box Experience. David Webb will be holding that downtown, and we're going to have participation there. As you know, we have our students going up to OSBA and participating in that venue. So we are providing opportunities for our students, but when it comes to supplementals, I think that openness for asking people from outside, once we get a feel for what our kids want, which we had talked about, that what are they truly interested in,
Right.
and that will be starting with my conversations with students. It's basically a lunch and learn, I'm going to let them title it, but we will be holding that first meeting and getting some input, and hopefully, in the second semester or as we start up, next year, we will be able to reach out and hopefully have the opportunity to bring in people, if that's needed, or we could have teachers who show interest in what the kids are interested in.
We have had such a lengthy conversation about this. I mean, we truly have, board, and here it is again before us, and we are, again, Groundhog Day on the supplementals. Duplication of services. We spent almost $500,000 in supplementals. Again, I know Ms. Jeter Freeman is big on the data. Are the same kids in some of these? Again, because if it's one group versus another group, and, you said one is advanced, one's not. What does that look like? Because again, we made it really clear and gave a directive, I thought, last year on what this should look like. And it's still here in front of us, and it hasn't changed.
I think I'm just more interested in it being student-centered. I would love, I wish we would have gotten the students together sooner to see
Well, we
what
said
they're
we were
interested
going to do
in.
that last year. Do you remember?
To see where they are with what they would like to have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say, we're missing a mark on the engaging the students, in getting the students' voice, in how we spend this massive amount of money that is to help them. And I know we have plans, and I know we have, and I heard you mention, they're going on a trip. If I would, if I could, I think it would be nice for the board to get, as a part of the agenda, if our students are taking trips, because that is what happens as MVCTC, as the students are taking trips. And the difference between there and here is that they're planned out. So we're voting for trips for next year already. There has to be some intentional planning on what it is we want to provide to our students in terms of leadership opportunities. Are we looking, or,
They spoke, you know that we have our OSHAA leaders that are going to be
I saw those.
participating through, right, we talked about that at our last board meeting. That's quite a few students. We have moved into working on student government. Each of my building principals are reporting to me the things that they have going on in their buildings, and they do have leadership opportunities for their students. As far as going on field trips, we are going to develop a district calendar, and when I say we are, that is in the works right now. We actually talked about that because I understand how you're feeling, not knowing what is going on all the time, because I want to be able to support and be a part of it as well. So that calendar will be coming out, and you will also receive it so that you will know and you can attend and support students as they're participating in activities. We have things going on. We will definitely continue to grow our list of supplementals. And we have a lot of things that, when you say we're always planning, well, the planning takes time because we also have to train, we have to prepare our staff, to participate with our students in the appropriate way. We have been where we are for a very long time, and so to make the changes that you want to see, it does take time, money, and preparation, and we do have the money, and we are using this time now to get these things in place. And I would ask for your patience for just a tad long. We are urgent with our kids. I used that word today in our meeting. The word was used by everyone there. We understand the urgency. No one understands it more than I do, which is why I'm such a proponent for preschool education. The sooner we start, we know the better. But I have to have a teacher for a preschool room. I have to have a para along with that person. I have to have the room already set up with the right chairs and things, which have to go on order. I mean, things, if I say it today, that does not mean that it will happen tomorrow, but what it does mean is that we are in process to make those things happen. So I understand what you're saying, that you have said you wanted to know, what the kids are interested in. Our kids are finally back in school. We have no intent of them not being in school. We are following all of the, rules and things that allow us not to have to quarantine. And so we're finally starting to make some movement with meetings with their kids and doing that. As you know, we spent the first month, dealing with some behaviors that we think are due in part to the kids not being together for a long time. Those things are starting to slow. And that gives us more opportunity to do the things such as set up meetings for our students, leadership opportunities for our students. We also are looking at things for our mothers, some other clubs and things we are looking to move forward with.
Is every person on the list who participates or leads a supplemental a teacher in the district?
Currently on our supplemental list,
Mm-hmm.
would you confirm that, Ms. Jordan? They are all, currently all of our supplementals are run by teachers. Thank you.
Okay.
I think the expectation for me is to inform the board as if we're planning to do anything new, a new program, a new group, it should come before the board. And so we're not deer in the headlights looking like I've never seen this group before. That's a courtesy. So there are some here, and then they should be explained, so, as to what they are. So that's the basic for me. It's like, we're gonna have a new group, and the board will be briefed as to what that group will do and the expectations from it. Like our, I think it was our Honor Society. They helped out. They were out at the Trotwood-Madison. Freezing, they were there. Those are the kind of things, so Ms. Allen, I'm sure, had planned, okay, they're going to do this. I don't think it's unreasonable for the board to want to know, what will our students be doing? You know, because it goes back to me saying, let the students lead. We have advisors in the room, but they're standing in the back, and the student government president and vice president and the rest of them are running the meeting. That's how we teach them how to lead. That's how the other charter schools you mentioned, that's how they create leaders. And that's why some of, even our staff, don't have their students here, because they have them at those schools that provide that kind of enrichment. And that's what I'm looking for.
And you would have been really pleased today. That is what we were talking about in our DLT meeting today, was how to engage our students and allow them to be self-directed learners so that they will set the motion for how they will learn.
Let me ask one more question. Like, is there, and this is the last one about the supplementals, because whatever. Does anyone assess the effectiveness of the supplemental? Like, if the band doesn't sound good, it's not the band's fault, it's the teacher, right? If the choir doesn't sound good, it's not the kid's fault, it's whoever's teaching them. So does anyone ever say, you know, maybe you're not doing so great?
Well, you know, what we do is we ask for that information that you all requested last year, like how many students are participating and how many activities do they go to. And yes, I'm sure that there is feedback given from the community, for example, for the band. And I know that when something does come to the attention of a principal, that they must take that into account because they actually assign, you know, the supplementals. So they have that opportunity.
How much competition is there? Like, for instance, if people are, you know, if someone always has the same job and maybe like a newer teacher comes in, are they, you know, kind of not considered, or are they scared to maybe, I guess, apply or something for the supplemental because maybe a more senior teacher has it?
The supplemental list, I know they go out, and then people, you know, can apply, and if more than one person applies, then the principal will make a determination as to who will have that supplemental.
So it could go to the more senior teacher versus maybe a new teacher.
I think the next time we put supplementals out, maybe it should be opened up to the community.
Yeah, I think
Not just the teachers in our district. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but, you know, maybe we get somebody better who isn't necessarily a teacher, but can facilitate some of these programs a little bit better than the teacher can.
Given what Ms. Jeter Friedman said, I'd like to put a motion on the floor to table A3 until we get an explanation of some of these new organizations, because when, Mr. Scares, when you mentioned the LGBTQ plus alliance, I mean, because we're in the community, people are going to want to know, and they're going to ask us, you know, what are you guys doing? What does the Future Farmers of America's advisor group do? I mean, we need we need information before we vote on anything. And even with these, the ones that I feel, and this is just Denise Moore, are duplication of services. We talked about that last year, board, and we need to look at how we can be more efficient in administering supplementals, if that is indeed the case. Because what I'm thinking is this, I mean, again, we've talked about it. I really thought that there was a clear understanding based on the dialogue last year, which was pretty robust. I believe that the board deserves that consideration. Ms. Jeter Freeman, I too would like to hear what that entails, what some of these entail.
So did you say, I couldn't understand you, Ms. Fluor.
I said table A3 for a clarification on clubs, an explanation, especially with the new clubs, because this is the first time that we're seeing them. And then we will bring them back based on what they offer, based on how efficient they can be, and not, you know, they're piecemeal here and piecemeal here, but they're the same thing, and go from there and vote on them.
And so I would second that.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions about, or any more comments about that, about tabling A3?
So it should not show up, it should not show up in the agenda. when-
There is a question.
Yes.
Well, before that, then it should not show up in the agenda, since it's been tabled, until after there's been sufficient enough dialogue and conversation about everything included in A3.
So would we have,
So you have until the next meeting.
until the next meeting to get that information about, looks like the Future Farmers of America advisor position?
All of them.
The singer's advisor, the vocals advisor, the muse machine advisor.
You want all of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so more information about everything listed in
Definitely
A3.
the ones that we've not seen before.
Okay.
I believe
Dr.
that-
Cosby, you said you had.
That we have not seen before, that's the Future Farmers of America and LGBTQ.
I don't think I have received art.
Which
No.
Art Club?
No,
I'm sorry.
Art,
or World Language Club either.
Okay.
World Language Club advisor?
Future Farmers. Yeah.
Again,
and it's not that some of these are important, that's a courtesy to the board. We're putting,
I can ask them to come and present what they do. So those that you have seen, as I said, some people are already working these positions. I guess my ask is, can we go on and vote on the ones where I have people who are currently working that are not new, that you all are familiar with? Can we go on and move forward with those?
I say no, because again, we really want to look at these individually, and this is what the board charged ourselves with, and make sure, like Vanessa said, it's student-centered, it makes sense, and there's efficacy in it. It's not just double duplicate service, it's not just fluff, it's something really and truly that will move our program and enhance our student education.
I would like to get clarity because obviously.
Well, I'll tell you the ones that I'm interested. Is that the one that, is that what you're asking?
No, what I'm asking you is what is it that you would like for them to do? Do you want these people who have signed up to do these to show up and to share with you what they do? is,
Yeah, we're paying them.
I'm trying to make
I
sure
mean, they're
that I
getting
do
paid.
it the way that you want it done versus say me, you know, writing it down or asking questions. Do you want me to see if everybody on our list can attend and sort of share with you what it is they do?
Yep.
I have a couple comments. In regards to this, as we're talking about just at this moment, I would think that the way to kind of satisfy everybody is if those advisors did schedule come into a meeting, we'll make a presentation, but they should be able to talk about, for lack of a better term, I'm just gonna say their charter, what their purpose of things is, their target group that they wish to work with, what would they anticipate would be the number of students that would be involved, an idea of what it would take to be a member, a good standing of that group, what types of activities. And I would think that at least an idea, if not a specific date, already set for those activities. And I would think that in the future, that kind of thing should probably come before the board before the academic session. So everybody has an idea, see what it is, and try to make some determinations.
They should probably have a face-to-face plan and a virtual plan.
I would say face-to-face.
They should probably have both. I mean, because we don't know what you know, what will happen with the pandemic. And so if they have a face-to-face plan and no virtual plan, then they don't have, you know, they don't have a plan. So I would say like maybe, you know, an alternative plan.
Right. I would like to see the virtual meeting also.
Ms. Joy Mazzix shared with me a document that we used actually, if you remember last year, to go through the majority of these, that sort of ask a lot of those questions, so we can keep that document so that you'll have it both in writing and we can still invite, you know, the people here to talk about what it is they do.
I don't want it to seem like an invitation, right? They need to show up.
Yeah, because we are paying, I mean, we spend $500,000 on these supplementals, and we never see these folks, you know, I mean, we just don't. It's just common courtesy. We're voting on, some of these folks have 2 and 3 supplementals at $15,000. In addition to, you know, Ms. Allen just did the 5-year forecast where 80% of our revenues is wages and benefits. So I'm just saying,
So I think
it's
it-
accountability.
I know what she's talking about in regards to what was presented to us last year. I think that would be nice. You can have that, but they still need to show up.
Yeah, and I was, when I said invite, I say invite because like tonight, I could have asked a lot of folks to be here, and, you know, we have the viewing tonight. There
Of
are
course.
times when people cannot necessarily make it, and I'm gonna ask them to come for our next meeting, but I'm sure the majority of them will be able to, but if there's someone.
Would we be able to also do it virtually if they can't come in person? Could we possibly, if they can't come, would they be able to, you know, they could do virtual?
Yeah, and if they can't, we'll just leave that one off until they can. It's up to them.
I just want to make sure I'm clear on all of the things you're asking.
And I think the reason the board is really, you know, so verbose about this is because it's not the first time. Like I said, it does feel like we went through this exactly this time last year almost, you know, where it was like, okay, well, can we know, can we know, can we know? And it's, you know, I just think that's the problem.
Ms. Bonesley, I remember we did bring that document, and we had the attorneys go through them, and we looked at all of that information. So my understanding for sure that you're asking about any new things that we have, and maybe there are some specific concerns, but that's what I mean. I want to make sure that what your concerns are
But,
addressed in the way that you want them to be.
and maybe somebody clarify for me, because I can't remember. The supplementals, are they in the negotiated agreement?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Dr. Carter,
However, the board
From my,
gets to say
from my
what we
perspective,
want.
I think that it would be more effective and just a more positive impression if those advisors came and presented themselves. What they've written down, we have that, and maybe that should be filed away, as part of the package, but almost like an audition kind of thing. Not necessarily, that's probably not the right word I'm trying to use, but they can make a presentation so we see them in person and understand what it is they're going to be doing and that kind of thing. And they can provide updates as they're going through so we see how they're progressing. And I think that would, I would think that would be more effective and also probably satisfy what it is that the board is asking.
And I just want to say this, Ms. Allen, you and I went around and around about then and nows. If I don't know anything else about this board, I know about then and nows. This stuff should not start until it's approved, because here is what we've done in the past. It's always the cart before the horse. It truly is. And, what I'm hearing is you said, well, gosh, some of these have started. Well, they haven't been approved. I mean, we've already learned from that, those mistakes along the lines of moving before the board has actually approved the item. And, again, that makes things a little bit more complicated when we have to pull back or make changes. So I would appreciate it, and I don't know if it's something maybe the board, we can consider in a retreat. When items are on the agenda for approval, they need to be approved before they are executed. That's spending. That's, and we know that they're coming up, so there's no reason to bring them now when we probably could have had them a month ago or 2 months ago, or even at the beginning of the year, whatever it is that we're going to earmark to do. Because it always seems like we're behind the 8 ball, and then here we are. It's kind of like, Ms. Jeter Freeman, you remember sitting on the stage of the high school being told, you got to make a decision because the deadline is like today. As a matter of fact, they started yesterday. That is not appropriate. That is not professional, and that is inconsiderate and rude, in my opinion, to bring forth items for approval when, they're already started.
When we have opening day, JROTC, probably volunteers participate. If we want to look at what is the very first thing that happens and then set as
Yeah,
a.
absolutely,
that
Dr.
is fine to
Cosby.
do. Again,
Absolutely. Then we won't have to be right here, right now, in this position.
I would like for you to just take into consideration, as you know, that we have a new HR person. I was new when I came on. The things that we're doing, I was under the impression that this is how we did it. I am being told now that you want this at a certain time. I'm hearing that. I will make sure that that happens. But I really did not realize that. So is it always, when you say Groundhog Day, is it just this time? Has this traditionally been done? Because opening day is the first day of school. I don't know when supplementals traditionally get sent out by the principal. We have a new high school principal, so we are hearing you. I understand your concern, and we will deal with that. I just wanted to just make it clear that it's not an intentional disrespect of the board or unwillingness to do what you're asking of me.
Yeah. And again, there's no blame and shame. It's how do we get better? How do we get more efficient and effective as a district? Not just staff and administrators, but even the board. How do we tighten things up so that we are in front of things and not behind things? This board works all summer. We don't take off. Like the city actually takes off in the summer. the council. We don't. So we have opportunities to handle things. And yes, with COVID and all people being virtual and all those other things, that has given us an opportunity to somewhat redesign how we do things. So as a best practice, and that's all I'm saying, Dr. Cosby, as a best practice, let's work on being proactive and not reactive. Because it's not pretty when you give somebody something and you have to pull it back. But it happens. It does happen. And it can happen.
It's
Okay.
By 2030, we won't be able to afford them no way.
Absolutely. Okay? Especially at 80, if we keep going like we're going. We have to be good stewards, and we have to be very conscientious and deliberate on making sure that we are serving the needs of the students, but also we're not just, we're just not just throwing away, just putting money out there just because we have it. Because if we didn't have it, what wouldn't be on this list?
We got a motion on the floor.
Yeah, we have a motion, Ms. Bozeman.
It's been properly moved, seconded. We're having a discussion now. Any other discussion? Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. So we'll have them come in, next meeting, Dr. Cosby?
Yes, I will invite you to come in. I will tell them that you'd like to see them next.
And it can also be I would say virtual. I'm okay with
It's their
virtual.
pick.
I'm gonna say virtual.
And if we want to stay safe, virtual's good.
Yep.
Let's- It's up to them.
Okay.
We'll give them that option.
Item 5, treasurer's comments, Ms. Allen. Thank you. Item 6A, Dr. Cosby, superintendent's comments.
Yes, I would like to make a comment about how wonderful our presentations were today. I think they were excellent, starting with Ms. Metcalf doing our mission statement, all the way through to gathering us really good information that I anticipate us moving forward with. I also have something that I want to share with you. Alex and Hill has worked with our AD, Shona Smith, to collect those PSAs that we talked about, public service announcements. At this time, we have between 8 and 10, and we are waiting on some from alumni. I understand they have been made, but we're going to brand them so that they all look alike. And we have other local professional athletes that we are anticipating getting some of these announcements. So I selected 3 of them that I thought were extremely good. They're all very good to share with you so you can get an idea of what this is going to be like. The students, after you see them tonight, will start to see them at lunchtime, at practice, on our social media sites. We will house them on our website so that if they want to go back and look at them again, they will see them, so they will get this information. If you'll remember, this is in response to our moving from our 1.0 to a 2.0 GPA for athletes. And we seem to be getting more support for that at this time than we were, and we think this will make a difference with the students. Would you play that for me?
Trotwood-Madison Rams, Archie Griffin here, 2-time Heisman Trophy winner, former Ohio State Buckeye, and former Cincinnati Bengal. Hey, I understand that your school district raised the GPA requirement for your eligibility in participating in sports. And I want you to know, first of all, that that's a good thing. And it's a good thing because it shows that they care about you. It shows that they don't only want you to be successful on the fields of courts of play, but they also want you to be successful in life. You know, I had a former football coach at the Ohio State University by the name of Woody Hayes, and he always told us that an athlete without an education could be headed for a bad situation. And what he was really telling us is that it's great that you play sports, but sports can only take you so far. In order to be successful in life, you got to get a good education. So he wanted us to concentrate on our academics. And that's what I'm here today for, is to ask you to concentrate on your academics, because your academics are going to help you to be successful in life. You know, I had 3 words that really had an impact on me when I came up. Those 3 words, I call them the 3 Ds. Number 1 being desire, number 2 being dedication, and number 3 being determination. And when you add those 3 Ds up, desire plus dedication plus determination, you know what you get? You get a total commitment. And those 3 Ds, desire, dedication, and determination, is what allowed me to have success, not only on the football field and the sports that I played in, but also in the classroom. And I want to challenge all of you to remember those 3 Ds. Desire, you have to want something out of life. Dedicated, you must be committed to achieving that certain something. And determination, you must be able to overcome the obstacles that might get in your way. Again, when you add those 3 Ds up, you get a total commitment. And I want to challenge you to give a total commitment, not only on the field that you play on or the courts that you play on, but also in the classroom. Make it a point to get good grades, because those good grades and the education that you receive is going to help you to be a success in life. Those 3 Ds work for me. And if they work for me, I know without a doubt that they can work for you. Use those 3 Ds. Go Rams.
His was probably the longest. We have 2 more and they're not as long. But I think this was excellent. I actually like that.
Hey, Trotwood-Madison Rams. This is Gabby Thomas, 2-time Olympic medalist for Team USA Track and Field, and I wanted to touch base a little bit on how academics have played a role in my success on and off the field. First and foremost, academics provide an outstanding foundation for discipline. It taught me everything I needed to know about being structured, managing my time, and being disciplined, and those are things that translated really well across sports, not just any sport, but specifically track and field for me. Furthermore, it provided me with opportunities that I just would not have had if not for taking my academics seriously and preparing myself to be a champion in the classroom too. Getting into Harvard was because of my discipline in the classroom, as well as my discipline on the track and on the field. And even now, a lot of the opportunities that I've been granted are simultaneously due to my efforts on the field and off the field. So they're both incredibly important, and taking advantage of any resources and support that you might have that is being offered to you is huge, whether that's tutoring. I always made sure that I was looking for tutoring resources, group studying, making sure my GPA is the best that I could make it. Now, I was not a perfect student, but I did my best. So I encourage you and all other athletes to focus on academics so that you're prepared to be champions in life and in sports. Trust me. Thank you for your support, and I wish you all the best. Go Rams.
We have one more that I would like you to see. It's a little different take. He talks personally, more personally than others.
Hey Rams, what's up? This is Tyson Gay, 3-time Olympian, American record holder, world champ. I just want to encourage you guys to stay focused on your academics so you can be prepared to be champions in life, especially on the field and off the field, guys. I want to share with you guys that education is key to success. I myself, I didn't understand that until later on in life, until my career. You know, when I was in high school, just to give you a little bit of my background, I was kind of just getting by. I think I had average of 2.3 GPA, nothing spectacular, C average kind of guy. But I didn't realize I had to have a higher ACT or SAT in order to get into college. So unfortunately, I had to take a different route and go to a junior college, a good school, Barton County Community College, but I wasn't able to go to the school of my choice. So I had to take a step back and get my grades together so I can get ready to go to the University of Arkansas. So I still made it, but if I would have stuck to the books and stayed focused and understood my ACT, my SAT, things like that will help me get there. And a little bit of studying each day would have made my life a lot easier, guys. It was tough. Nobody wants to go to summer school, so I had to take a long route, guys, just to get to where I am, to make it even to the Olympics. The education had to come first, guys. So I just want to cheer you guys on the field, off the field, especially off the field, guys. I mean, there's so much going on in life with, you have social media, you have games, sports, and it's not easy being a student athlete, but I want you guys to know a little bit of time a day will take the stress away, especially when it comes to education. Just study a little bit, guys. So I wish you guys luck in the upcoming season and everything you want to do in life. So stay safe, guys. Stay blessed. Tyson Gay signing out. Peace.
So as I said, we have several more of those. They're all really good. I think they will have an impact on our students. Really excited about getting that.
I have a question, Dr. Cosby. So just because, it's just the kind of person I am, did we do a little poll or something to see which kind of people would the students like to see, or who would have the most impact? Give the students a list of names to see which people they know, or you know what I'm saying, who they could identify, and something like that.
Well, truthfully, what I'm thinking and expecting is that the kids are going to be, I think, excited if they're athletes for the most part, and we're going to have other students watching it as well. That the element of surprise, that who was willing to do this for them, I think that would be.
But if they don't know who the person is?
The person introduces themselves, and we have asked alumni, we have asked local athletes, we have asked people who we know they know personally, and we just have not gotten back information from all of them, and we haven't, and the ones that we have are recent as at the winter sports breakfast this Saturday, and this has been out for a while for them to get this information to us. I had to ask again, and they did say that they would do it, and my understanding is that, some have. So it's not that we didn't try to get people who are more local, people who are more known, but you would be surprised. I know I've always been surprised at the level of engagement that my son has in, say, basketball. He knows every player. He talks about people I have no idea who they are. So I think because we don't know them doesn't mean the kids don't know them.
Okay, thanks. All right, any other comments? Anything else, Dr. Cosby?
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. And we're going to keep those things rolling. We're going to keep those going for a while?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Board comments, Mr. Andrews?
Yes, I gave y'all a break last time.
Huh?
Okay.
Last Saturday, there was an event here, wasn't here, but at the Trotwood Community Center, sponsored by Central State, and I think it's kind of a loose collaboration with Trotwood Schools. It was fairly well attended, but I think the center was trying to align themselves to the agriculture program with Trotwood. I'd like to see, and I'm challenging them to do a better job of publicizing the event so that more people in the community can get involved. Also, last Friday, the fellows went down and gave their best shot. They were not successful in the football playoffs, but our band did a really nice job at halftime, small but mighty, and I think they gave a really good impression. The routine was very coordinated and very uniform. I was really pleased to see. And then last but not least, tonight, presentation by Mr. Kemper, I thought was just excellent. And I felt like it really kind of energized the room. And I wish him well, and I wish us well in coordination with what he's doing. And looking forward to that.
All right, thank you. Miss Jeter Freeman? Nothing? Okay. Miss Moore?
Yes, I echo Mr. Andrews on Mr. Kimbrough. Really excited about that initiative and the partnership with Trotwood. Also, I want to ask, Dr. Cosby, there is an exhibit at the Dayton Library, and it's Undesigned the Red Line. And what is Red Line?
Oh, yeah.
I'm so proud of Trotwood. Let me tell you, okay, let me
It's
tell
really
you.
nice,
I'm-
yeah.
I didn't hear it from here, but because I'm
nice.
out in the community, somebody walks up to me and says, "Your school district." And I said, "Okay." They said, "You are the only school district that will host this exhibit the month of January, I believe." And, yeah, the month of January, and they were so excited. They were so excited that I was downtown, and they said, "You have to see it." So we walked over to the library to see the underline. I mean, I'm proud of Trotwood. I'm proud of us taking being the pioneer, because that project is huge. And as a matter of fact, when I was out at a meeting, another school district, our sister district, which is Springboro, asked, "Is there any way," and Ms. Jeter Freeman, you'll remember the collaboration that we've had, "is there any way that we can collaborate around that?" Because Trotwood is the only district that will have this display for an entire month. And for those of you who don't know what that display is, it's really a compelling exhibit that traces the targeted roots, really and truly, of, how do I say, race, equity, or inequities, and it really policies that focus on social issues that we face today. It's very transformative. I mean, if you just go through the grid, the map, it lets you see the history of race and class in U.S. housing, specifically here in Dayton. I mean, you always ask, why is this way? And how is this intentional? It's by design. And basically, it speaks to equity and inclusion. They ask if there's an opportunity for them to bring over some students, and they are a predominantly white district, and they are so interested in this
They want us
project.
to bring the students to them?
No, they want to bring
Oh, okay.
students here.
Okay.
It's going to be a hallway,
Okay.
and they can go through it, and they can
Here
talk
in
about
Central
it, and how the legacy of inequities and exclusion, continues to shape our communities, because really they're trying to bridge the gap even in their own districts. So if we can make something like that, I'll get you in touch with.
I'm already in touch. I've mentioned this before.
No.
Because we had to get permission to use, how they had to. This is Learn to Earn Dayton. We are working closely with them, and they are going to be bringing in people. We're going to be like the library, so to speak,
Yes.
for.
Well, I didn't know that, and I guess that's just the thing. If we don't know that, it's a surprise. And again, it makes me feel really disconnected, and I'm really happy, and I'm very proud, but because the board is in the community, and I know you have so many things going on. I mean, I do. I mean, it's not an indictment, okay? But, I just, if we could, that is the kind of thing that we need a press release on, because Trotwood is the only one. I mean, that is huge what we're doing. So, again, getting that information out. I didn't know we were working with Earn to Learn, and I didn't know any of that, but I know nobody's reached out to Springboro because they reached out to me, okay? So that's what I'm talking about, is can I get you connected that way? And then we can set something up, I guess, through the high school. So kudos to whoever made that decision. If it were you, Dr. Cosby, kudos to you. Kudos to your executive cabinet and the high school. One thing that we talked about at our retreat was doing this report card review. And I don't want to get away from that, because I know you said that your team is working on that. We need to look at that. And we need to look at that sooner than later. There are some areas that we probably can address. There's some improvement areas. There's some areas that Ms. Jeter Freeman was talking about with ESSER dollars and how we can expand what we have. The data is there, but if we don't utilize it, it doesn't matter. So I would like to see some sort of a retreat or something, presentation for the report card, even if we just break it down into sections, we're going to talk about this, and then we'll talk about this. Maybe we'll talk about buildings, maybe we'll talk about the overall, but the board needs, I see you nodding your head, Mr. Warner, we need that. We need that. Okay, yeah, but, again, just, we need that really bad. We need that soon, okay? Like before the end of the year. Another thing is, we had good information from Dayton's Children's, the initiative. Thank you, the Care House. Thank you, Mr. Scarce. They do a lot to help children, and with the pandemic and the children that flew under the wire and did not get the services, I just think that it's such a worthwhile organization. I just wanted to say that. So thank you. And again, continuing those partnerships and bringing folks in to talk to us and to share what it is they do and see how maybe what they do can complement what we do and build what we have here. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Scarce?
Yeah, just a few. I did appreciate Mr. Kennebrews' presentation. I wish the board was so quick at decision-making all the time, but, it is what it is. I did also appreciate the presentation from Care House. I strongly hope and pray that we can partner with them. I would not want them to not be able to service Trotwood kids because of a lack of funding that we can help provide. I just really hope that can come to fruition. I cannot imagine in any way, kids suffering sexually or physically, and us having the ability to help prevent that and not do it. So I hope that we're able to partner with Care House. I would also like to say congratulations to the new board members who will be coming on in January. Can't think of their names, but congratulations to them. And I hope we would extend some sort of invitation to, onboard them in some capacity, so that when they get here, they don't necessarily experience what I experienced and boom. So let them know that they have access at this point to any onboarding processes. If they wanted to attend some of the board member classes at OSBA that'll be happening this weekend, they have the privilege of doing that. And congratulations to them. Lastly, I think one of the last things I'll do, I got 4 meetings left as a board member. And one
Maybe
of
a fifth, because we might add on that
got
work
a fifth.
session for the
I have
report
4.
card. So you'll have 5.
One of the last things I'll do as a board member is to suggest that we change the pricing on the vending machine, because it says $1.25, but it really costs $2. And I was so disappointed when I could not get my cherry Coke. So
I gave you money.
I didn't have enough.
You should ask for more.
So thank you very much. Good evening, everybody.
Okay, as always, my board members covered everything. I will add that I did read in the high school newsletter about the field trip tomorrow to the Funk Museum to learn about funk, open to any student who wants to go. So I was really excited to hear about that. I think it's sponsored, a Muse Machine event. So that was really interesting to hear about. And then I'm actually presenting at the Equity Summit, and the title, of course, all of the presentations had to center around redlining. So when you said that, equity and redlining, it reminded me of my presentation, which I consider the state report card redlining. That's just me. Okay?
Yeah, it is.
And so that's, so I'm talking about that, and I talk about how that, of course, that, and I think jobs, which is income, and then I talk about how COVID-19 has pushed everything back even further. And so that's what I'm talking about in my presentation, and that's, of course, that's complete and total inequity. So that's what I'm doing next week, and for the past 2 weekends, I've done some implicit bias training with nonprofits. So that's been the stuff I've been doing, and I'll continue to do once I get off of the board. So I've already kind of, gotten away from y'all.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
You too.
Just kidding, it's been great. It's been great. It's a joke. It's a joke. I'm crying inside.
Yeah, President Bozeman, there's one other thing, if I could add on to Mr. Scares. Mr. Scares, what you said about onboarding, that would be the board's responsibility for the new folks, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about what we can do, just to get them situated and positioned so that they have an easier transition.
So, board, with that being said, thank you to all of you for sticking around, and I now need a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, dismissal, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual per BOE Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22G1.
So moved.
I'll second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Board, do you have any questions? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is 8:05. We will go into executive session, and there will be no action taken.
Use the restroom.
Shouldn't be too long. People, we only have, I think, one thing.
Two.
Two.
Two things, okay.